These guys are big. They're huge actually. This big one is like 7 inches. More than 7 inches. He's a good area. This guy's huge. Like, I mean, look at that thing. Holy God, you're big. Look at you. You're a big boy. Oh, look at you, big boy. Look at you, big boy. Don't bite me. There we go. Big boy. Very nice. That's a pretty fish. That looks like a girl. I hope I have at least 2 females in here. That's another big boy. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Alright, let's put these guys in, yeah?
Produced by Mali.
You might be wondering why I didn't open this box and have them pulled out and put into the tank already. They have been traveling for a while and the temperature in here is a little cold, so I didn't want to shock them. I was just letting them come to room temperature. So let's open the box. I've already cut the box and checked the fish out, and there they are. Let's open this bag as well because we're gonna put them into the tank now. So let's do that. They're big. They're very large fish, so I'm very excited. This is probably the largest fish I have in my fish room in terms of Loricariids. Look at that. Oh my God. Spectacular, guys. Spectacular, guys. Look at that. Wow, that's a big fish. I'm gonna need new caves. I'm gonna need to buy some new caves. Look at that. I don't know if you guys can see it, but wow, that's a big fish. Try to pick them up. No, I shouldn't handle them. They're not very delicate, but I wouldn't want anything to happen to them. But let's look at them up close. You guys definitely want to see these guys. What is going on, world? Welcome back to Aqua Malik. I actually picked up the L082 Scobiancistrus. This is their quarantine tank. They're actually in the fish room. They're actually sitting on the ground. We'll be looking at them towards the end of this video. So watch till the end because you do not want to miss how these fish look. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about that something I think is quite important, which is biosecurity in your fish room. Now, I understand that it is not possible for everybody to have many tanks, like maybe 40 or 50 tanks or whatever, because obviously it's a lot of work to maintain and whatnot. But what I'm going to say is that if you are going to keep fish, especially these higher end fish, you're definitely going to need at least 2 fully established, fully cycled tanks. One, to keep your fish in display and to have them, you know, so you can see them or whatever, or your main breeding tank or whatever. And the other tank should be your quarantine / hospital tank. Now in my situation, because I do have so many tanks, I don't actually have a specific hospital or quarantine tank. I usually like to quarantine the fish in the tank that they're going to outlive the rest of their lives. So for example, if I'm going to put these fish in this tank and I'm not going to move them for the next foreseeable future, I like to also quarantine the fish in the same tank that they're going to go into. Now these are quite large fish. Some of them are like about 7.5, 8 inches. I did not expect them to be this big, and they're probably going to be the biggest fish in my fish room, so I'm going to have to be really careful because they are going into a 37-gallon tank. They do require a little bit larger tank, so this is going to force me to move into a bigger space in the near future. So probably within the next 12 months to 18 months, I would probably be looking at moving into a bigger space. So by the beginning of 2022 or the middle of 2022, realistically, I would have to move into a new space. Now the fish that was in this tank were my L082 Rarest Plecos. They were a spawning group and they had stopped spawning for the winter, and they had just started spawning, I guess. I didn't know that they had started spawning, but I found a clutch of eggs in the tank, in the cave when I'm pulling out the adult males. And what I ended up doing was, instead of moving the eggs into a different water system, I just put them into this cis egg tumbler, and I decided to tumble them in this tank and keep them in here for now. And once they hatch, I will move them into somewhere else where I think they're going to be okay. Now the other fish, the 8 fish that were in here, I moved into a smaller setup, which is a 12 by 24. They are small fish. I'll put some beautiful footage of some of the spectacular ones I have. A lot of them were in the caves, but I did pull some of them out. Now in terms of this video, what I want to stress is that anytime you get a new fish, I really recommend you guys doing some type of quarantine so you can monitor the fish. I actually was talking to a friend recently who picked up some zebra plecos and put them directly into their group. And another friend actually was telling me yesterday, sending me pictures of the new fish he picked up, perfectly healthy fish, and he put directly into the group. Now, usually in most cases, nothing does go wrong. Maybe 8 out of 10 times, you're fine. But the 2 times that some things do go wrong, they can go wrong really badly. Like, I've had some really bad experiences. The last time I brought ick into the fish room, it did come with some zebra plecos, and it transferred into 2 of my other tanks, or 3 of my other tanks. I lost about 20 little guys. They're not adult fish that were my breeders, so I didn't lose any adult breeding fish in that sense. I did lose one Corridorus CW045, which is quite expensive fish itself. I'll put a link to that entire debacle up here so you guys can check it out and follow along on what you might have missed out in the last 6 months in the fish room. I did lose 8 zebra plecos in that ordeal, so it's a big loss when you lose 8 very expensive fish that could be a couple of $100 each. For an average person, this is pretty much the end of their fish keeping career, or at least they'll give up keeping these type of fish. If you only have like 10 zebra plecos and you get a new one, or you get a couple of new ones and you put them in the tank without quarantine, and those fish bring some type of pathogen, then you're potentially exposing all 10 of your other existing colony into this new pathogen. This is something not as advisable. I really recommend quarantining your fish for at least 8 weeks. If it's a tank raised fish that came from one of your friends that you trust and stuff, from a breeder or something, I would say 4 weeks is minimum, so that you get to monitor the fish. I also have a test fish. I'll show you some footage of that guy. It's a snub-nosed zebra pleco. I bought this fish from somebody like about 2 years ago because I keep buying a lot of new fish, and I buy a lot of zebra plecos, so I need to make sure that the new fish I'm getting are not gonna infect my existing fish. At any point, if I do decide to mix them, or if the water gets mixed up between the 2 tanks for whatever reason. So when I do get new zebs, for example, I'll put them in one of these tanks. They'll sit in the tank for about 4 to 6 weeks before I introduce my snub nose into the tank, and then the snub nose will let me know that there's no pathogens in the tank that can transmit to any of the other zebras that I have, because my snub nose is in the same health as everybody else, and they're in the same water, so they're pretty much used to the same pathogens. And once that fish is healthy for about 2 weeks, then the other fish that have come in, the new fish, get a passport to move about throughout my fish room. And this is my process, this is what I do, and this is exactly what I'm going to do with these fish. So follow along and subscribe if you haven't, so you guys can get to see these exact fish going through this quarantine process. They're not going to be moved around, but I will put the snub nose in here to make sure that these fish don't have any issues that can transmit to my other expensive fish, because my zebra tank is right beside this tank, and I usually like to take water from one tank into the other when obviously I'm not quarantining animals or anything. So in that situations, I don't want to accidentally transmit any bacteria or pathogens or any fungal diseases, or like, I don't know if you guys have experienced necrosis in fish. I have, and it's quite fast. The fish dies within about 24 hours from the time it gets infected. One person sent me a message, and by the time I got back to him, his fish were already dead. So that's how fast these pathogens could work its way through your system. So you have to be really careful when you're bringing new fish in. And I'm not trying to put anybody down, and I'm pretty sure a lot of times, 8 out of 10 times, everybody gets a really happy, good experience. But when you're picking up new fish like I am, like you see new fish coming into the fish room every month or every few weeks. So I have to really take these things into serious consideration. And these fish were quarantined 4 weeks before I got them, or 5 weeks now, I think. But I'm not taking any chances. They're going into a quarantine tank because they came from the wild, and they could bring some type of wild pathogen that my tank bred zebra plecos are not immune to. They could bring some pathogen that my other fish, my other Hypancestris, or my other types of loricariids that come from different rivers are not immune to, or that doesn't have any immunity to. So then you're now exposing all these animals, so you have to be really careful with that. So that's basically the theme of the video. But basically, let's look at the fish, because I mean, I know you guys don't watch this video to watch me just ramble about these stupid things that don't mean anything until it actually happens to you. So that's why I'm actually saying this so many times, because I've seen this happen in my personal life. I've lost entire tanks full of fish, loricariids included, when I brought simple diseases that that could have been cured by just a few weeks of quarantine, could have identified easily by some quarantining. but instead of doing that, I put them directly into my tank, and that's how I've come to this point. And I really want to make sure you guys don't make the same mistakes that I have made in the past and lose some really expensive fish in the process. But now, without further ado, let's look at the fish that we got. He's big, actually. He's probably definitely over 7 inches. Look at that. It's like 7.5 inches. Big boy.